Now we're going to start sharing how to prioritize like Eisenhower. Now, this isn't going to be much of a history lesson on Eisenhower, but I think you do need to know a little bit about the man. He was president of the United States in the 50s, early 60s, also was an American general during World War II. And apparently this guy knew a ton about managing time because his approach, called the Eisenhower Box or the Eisenhower Quadrant, is taught in business schools all over the country. And today in this video, I'm going to share his approach that's taught world over with you. Eisenhower essentially broke all the things he had to do into 4 separate quadrants that were laid out in important and urgent, not important, not urgent. So we're going to go into some detail on that. Important and urgent, not important, not urgent. Those are the areas. So the 4 blocks are important and urgent, things you have to do right now. Important but not urgent, things that we have to get done, and maybe big projects, assignments, that sort of thing. Plans, strategies, but they don't have to be done right now. So we have to plan or schedule time for those. Then the bottom side of the quadrant are things that aren't important, but are urgent. These are our interruptions during the course of the day. Those are emails, phone calls. Hey, I got a quick question for you. Got a minute? Those sort of things. Those are the fires. And that's where many people get frustrated with managing their time. That's where they spend a lot of their time, is in dealing with day-to-day matters versus managing their time. So that's the urgent, but not that important. And then the last quadrant is the not important, but not urgent. So we've got important and urgent, got to do it right now. We've got important, but not that urgent, which is wait, schedule it, do it later. We've got the not important, but urgent. Those are our interruptions during the course of the day, or things we need to delegate. We need to delay, delegate, or don't do altogether. And we're going to talk a little bit about the don't list in a future video. And then there's the not important, not urgent. Those are the time wasters that we tend to encounter during the course, naturally during our work week, our work days. And we've got to be able to identify those and minimize those in order for us to, again, wrest the control of our time away from others and be able to control it and manage it ourselves. So let's talk about how to use the Eisenhower Quadrant. Well, first of all, once you start assembling your thoughts, organizing your thoughts, this is all about prioritization and being able to get the mindset, the mental thoughts around what's important, what's not important, what's urgent, what's not urgent, and being able to rewire ourselves a little bit as to, does this really have to be done right now, or can this wait? Does this really need to be done by me, or can I give it to somebody else? When am I going to get this done? When do I need to schedule it? It's moving beyond putting out fires during the course of our days and our weeks. So at the end, we go home feeling really productive and we got things done. We're going to box things off. We're going to put them in their proper quadrants in order to better manage our time. Because when we go home at the end of the day and we've been really busy but haven't got much done, that's emotionally draining. That is not fair to the people who look forward to you coming home. It's not fair to you because you're mentally tired. It is extremely exhausting to go through your career, your workday life, and feeling like you're always behind the 8 ball, that I never get stuff done. That is where this tool comes into play, is to help you. It won't cure everything, but it's certainly going to help you be able to create the mental prioritization, putting things in boxes to whether I need to do it now, do it later, do it at all, skip it, eliminate it from my life. Many managers treat everything that's right in front of them as the priority. And those are the ones that just as the day comes, things come, questions, ask, meetings, etc., coming to them all day. Whatever's right in front of them is the priority. That's the exhausting part. And we've got to help you move past that. Too much focus being spent on day-to-day matters, putting out fires, tends to push off your available time to spend on more important matters. That's when you tend to procrastinate the big important stuff. You keep putting it off to where it becomes more and more, your window of urgency starts to close, and then you have to crunch at the end. That's when you have to work nights and weekends till 2 o'clock in the morning, or you're taking way more time and you're frankly kind of frustrated about it because I didn't manage my time earlier to get it done. I didn't schedule it. That's one of the important elements of this. And we've got to identify all those things that are keeping you from getting those done on time in small blocks effectively. Moving away from putting out fires, prioritizing your time effectively. We don't want you allowing things to rob you of your productive time in ways that's going to lessen your results, lower your effectiveness within the organization, and how you serve your team, quite frankly, because your team is counting on you. So let's talk about separating the urgent and the important. So by being able to distinguish between the urgent and important, you can then focus time and energy on the things that matter most. It's not just dealing with whatever's coming at me all day, every day. I'm able to separate that, set it into the proper perspectives, the proper boxes, so that I am understanding and managing my time. If you really want to improve your time management, if you really want to become highly effective and results driven as a manager, this one tool, if embraced, if committed to, this is where your habit changing improvements will come, is this one exercise. I promise you. So let's talk more about the Eisenhower Quadrant. It's going to help you distinguish between what's important and what's not urgent, what's important. It splits everything into the 4 boxes. So, and you have to be able to then understand whether I need to do it now, schedule it, delay it, delete it, delegate it. What do I need to do with it? That may sound in the beginning like, wow, that's going to take more time. And yes, it will. It takes more mental energy to do it that way. However, as your competency improves on taking the time to associate where things need to be going in your day, you'll get faster and faster at it. It comes with your kinesthetic knowledge and learning by doing. It's vitally important that you embrace this. So if you run around putting out fires all day, you go home tired, feeling like you don't get much done at the end of the day, you don't feel like you're progressing on your goals at the rate or the effectiveness that you feel like you should be progressing on those goals. If you are one of these folks that suffer from procrastination, if you put a lot of things off, maybe to the point where you just don't do certain things, if you struggle with saying no, as is one of those things that I struggle with, if you have a hard time delegating tasks, well, folks, this is the cure for that. Urgent tasks. Let's talk about what urgent tasks are. So that's the boss calling. Yeah, we want to talk to the boss when the boss says, "Hey, you got a minute?" or the boss is calling on the phone. We want to take the time to do that. If you get a phone call from a client and you've been waiting on that call, it's a really important call. Okay, that's urgent. We've got to deal with that now. If the building's on fire and we need to evacuate, well, yeah, we probably need to deal with that. So there's things that have to be dealt with soon or immediately. Those are our urgent tasks. And again, unfortunately, without the mental separation of all the things that we're conducting during the course of the day, everything becomes urgent, everything becomes a priority. And that's the value of this, is be able to, now let's break that out into segments that I can get better control of, because that's what this course is all about, is you controlling your time, not your day controlling you. So is this sometimes that you get lost in all the responsibilities and the responses, and you treat whatever is right in front of you as the most urgent thing in the world? Yeah, a lot of you do, and a lot of people do, and there's no shame in that. It's very, very, very common. And again, this is why the Eisenhower Quadrant is taught in business schools to CEOs and executives and managers all across the country, and universities and advanced courses everywhere, is because it is human nature, with all that we have to do, to fall into that trap. This is the brilliance of the Eisenhower Quadrant, is it allows us to start prioritizing things effectively. Let's talk about what's important. Important tasks contribute to the long-term mission success of your organization. That's what's important. Now, this is a very important distinction, is if you are aligned with your organization on the vision and mission and what our strategies are, what your own planning and to-do list around big important contributions for you to be making, your team to be completing within the organization, that's the important stuff. They do not have to be done right now very often. Those are things that you've got some time to get done. And again, because very often we're treating everything with too much urgency, we tend to shorten or narrow the time we have available to work on the bigger, longer term important things. That's, again, the essence of the Eisenhower Quadrant. So quadrant one, again, important and urgent. You want to do that right now. And again, just think about it, is this really something I've got to do? Is this building on fire, got to evacuate kind of stuff? Is this the boss and I'm going to get fired if I don't answer the phone kind of stuff? That's how you have to think about the urgent and important stuff. Quadrant two, important but not urgent. Those are the things, those are the longer term things. They don't have to be done right now, but they have to be done. That's where you have to start scheduling. That's the concept of time blocking. That's where you need to take an hour or two over several days, put it on your schedule, treat it like a doctor's appointment. It's always the way I've reminded myself. I got to treat that time by going to the doctor. I don't miss many of those appointments, and if any. And so you've got to treat that with the same level of importance and urgency as you. Quadrant three is the urgent but not important. Those are the things that we need to delay, delegate, or ignore altogether. Or even more importantly, is we need to get to root cause where those are coming from. For example, if you've got your team coming to you asking questions all day, every day, and you ever think, oh my God, why can't they figure things out on their own? You know, they know this stuff. Why am I having to keep answering the same questions over and over again? For example, if that's ever you, it's not their fault. That's something you're doing wrong. Because probably when you get down to the root cause of why they're coming at you with questions all day long, is because you haven't taken the time to delegate, train, assign those tasks, give them the empowerment to make decisions on their own, that you haven't invested in their competencies in a way that they are independent of you. Think about that. If they're asking questions all day, you need to go back to developing your team course and understand the 16 reasons why employees don't do what they're supposed to do, and then get yourself aligned with what changes you need to make in how you're managing your team to prevent some of these questions, some of these fires that you're having to deal with all day. It could be that there are, if there's drama all day, every day in your life as a manager, and I use that word a little loosely, but a lot of people term it as drama during the course of the day. Well, we need to be looking at the culture of your organization. We need to be looking at the standards of behavior within your organization. It's those sort of things that we've got to be looking at to get to the root cause that's creating these. So don't just deal with them and keep dealing with them. Find ways to fix them permanently. You want to be into fire prevention, not fire fighting. And if you're fighting a lot of fires during the course of your day, you need to spend some amount of your mental energy in introspection on how you can do an improved job of preventing these fires coming to you or being created at all. And then number 4, it's very simple, not urgent, not important. These are the time wasters. There's dozens and dozens of them. We're going to talk about an exercise at the end of this video of how you can go start understanding how much time is being leaked to these kind of time wasters in your life. So in identifying the small talk, the not important interruptions, the discussing things that aren't work related. Yes, you need some level of socialization in your life. Absolutely. What proportion are you at is where we've got to understand clearly. So let's plan your day. Let's take a day using the Eisenhower box. Let's talk about the urgent and important task. Those are phone calls, emails, texts, conversations that are expected. You know that's coming. Urgent and important task, or maybe a crisis. Maybe somebody got really sick in the lunchroom. Maybe somebody just came in and said, "Hey, boss, I got to talk. I'm quitting." Those are the things that will come into your day that's going to disrupt things, but you got to deal with them. Absolutely. Communication. There could be certain communications that have to be out by a certain amount of time. I used to send out a daily email to thousands of people in my organization, and it's the first thing I did every morning. By 5:30 in the morning, before I did anything during the course of my day, I got up, I got my data together, I sent out a sales and recognition email to thousands of people every day. It was an important part of my communication task, but it was a priority, and I had to do it before I did anything else. I couldn't wait because my day would get started and I keep putting it off and putting it off, putting it off. And let me tell you, if I missed a day, and I missed a couple, not many, people would start saying, something wrong with Vaughn. What in the world went wrong? Vaughn, where's the daily email? Communication. If you're running a tight team, tight organization, your level of communication is certainly important, sometimes urgent, depending on getting your resources out at the proper time of day. Again, think about the building on fire or the baby crying. It's not the phone ringing unless it's ringing with somebody that's really important. Always do these tasks first if they require your immediate attention. That's quadrant 1. Quadrant 2, not urgent, but important tasks. These are the ones that help you achieve your goal. So let's talk about if you're running a sales team and I want to improve sales by 15, 20%. I've got to start thinking about the strategies, the tactics I've got to initiate. And there's going to be more on this in strategic leadership in that course. But it's what are the steps I need to take to get that done? And one of those may be, well, I need to hire a salesperson. Well, I don't need to do that now, but I need to make time over a course of several days, because that's not one act, that's a series of multiple acts to get this salesperson hired. So I've got to make sure my job description is up to date. I've got to get an ad posted. I've got to be able to start screening those resumes as they start coming in. I've got to start doing phone interviews. I've got to then start scheduling face-to-face interviews. Over what days and times am I going to be getting that done? It's not an all at once task. It's a series of tasks done over time. There's thousands of examples of that. Those are the important things you got to get done. Do it over time, schedule it, time block it, pick the days and times at the best days and times to get those done for yourself so that you achieve your goal. Number 3, urgent and important tasks. These fall into the quadrant generally as interruptions. Quadrant 3, they're generally interruptions. It's the constant, again, firefighting and questions. Hey, you got a second? I got a quick question for you. Hey, you mind if I borrow you for a minute? Kind of stuff. It's people constantly bugging you about things that may or may not be that important to you, but it's important to them. It's also things that could be administrative tasks. It could be things that are repetitive that, you know what, you don't have to be the person to do it. You could probably train somebody else to do that. If it's not top secret kind of stuff, and somebody else can do that, well, there's a complete win-win if you think about these kind of administrative tasks. If I can teach somebody else to do that, and in time they can do it just as well as I do it, then you're developing them. You're getting that hour you spend a day or a week off your plate onto somebody else's plate. You're developing your team, which is the finest art of leadership, is being able to make yourself and your team self-supportive. They no longer need you for everything. Your team members are going to love you for delegating and giving them these responsibility. I promise you they will love you for this because you're making them feel trusted and valued by delegating these things to them. And it's studied through history of leadership and management. People love to be given additional responsibility as long as there's training, support, and recognition to get those done. So be thinking about all the things you're doing that don't necessarily have to be done by you. So you want to also look at these things as, hey, I can't do it right now. Let's talk about it at the meeting on Wednesday. I can't talk about that right now. I'll be free at 4 o'clock. I don't have to deal with it right now is the key to all this. Most managers spend way too much time in this quadrant. That's why you get frustrated. It's all these things that I've just mentioned that you're doing or not doing that is creating that exhaustion at the end of the day, that frustration when you go home at night, feeling like you didn't get anything done today. It's because there's too many things in this quadrant and you got to figure out what you can get off your plate to somebody else, delegate, delay, or ignore altogether. And number 4, these again are your not urgent, not important tasks, things that it's socializations, it's your time wasters, it's things that creep into our life like death by 1,000 cuts that we don't necessarily have to have. There's going to be some proportion of these, absolutely, because a lot of it's socialization. But if every minute we can ignore this, not be doing it, is a minute I can assign now in my quadrant to my long-term, not urgent, but important time to get the big stuff done. Delete these sort of things as best you can from your day-to-day activities. That's the Eisenhower Quadrant. Our next step, and how do I understand what I'm doing now in order to properly utilize the Eisenhower Box or the Eisenhower Quadrant? Take a time audit, assign what you learn from your audit into the 4 quadrants so you get a very clear picture of where your leaks